I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. I need your full attention. A silent energy coup was just triggered in North America, and it is going to reshape your financial future forever. In 2026, while the United States celebrates its position as the supreme king of liquefied natural gas, a devastating market move just arrived from Canada. The global balance of economic power is shattering. This insider intelligence leaked only a few hours ago. Hit that subscribe button right now if you truly refuse to be left behind when the entire world order changes tomorrow. May 14th, 2026. In a heavily guarded conference room in Vancouver, British Columbia, the atmosphere is suffocating. There are no polite smiles. There is no diplomatic ambiguity. Executives and politicians sit in dead silence. Representatives from the federal government of Canada, the provincial leaders of British Columbia, and the executive board of Liquefied Natural Gas Canada face each other across a massive oak table. At exactly 2:45 in the afternoon, they sign a document that changes the global energy map forever. They call it the Enhanced Investment Cooperation Agreement. Do not let that boring bureaucratic name fool you. This is a declaration of economic war. To understand why this moment is terrifying for the establishment, you must look at the brutal contrast of the numbers. Before the summer of 2025, Canada did not export a single molecule of liquefied natural gas. Not one. They were completely non-existent on the global stage. They were a ghost in the energy sector. Yet, with a single stroke of a pen on May 14th, they formalized an expansion plan that will catapult this quiet nation straight into the top 5 global exporters on Earth within less than a decade. Zero to a global superpower in less than 10 years. No transition period, just pure aggressive escalation. Meanwhile, exactly 2,000 miles away in Houston, Texas, energy titans are staring at their intelligence feeds in absolute disbelief. The room is dead silence. Pens are dropped. Cell phones are buzzing uncontrollably. For years, the United States has spent billions of dollars building an absolute monopoly over the global energy supply. American energy barons believed they were completely untouchable. They assumed the American Gulf Coast would dictate terms to Europe and Asia for the next half-century. They were completely blindsided. The document signed in Vancouver defines Phase 2. This is not a minor upgrade. It is a massive structural double-down. Phase 1 already features 2 giant processing units capable of churning out 14 million tons of liquefied natural gas every single year. Phase 2 adds 2 more identical units. That brings the total nameplate capacity to a staggering 28 million tons annually. Let us put that scale into perspective. This single facility, in a remote Canadian town called Kitimat, will now match the absolute largest energy mega-facilities in Qatar, Australia, and the United States. This is no longer a localized Canadian infrastructure project. This is an international monster, designed to feed the most critical economies on the planet. The ink on that contract is barely dry, but the shockwaves are already tearing through the halls of power in Washington. The American energy monopoly is facing its first lethal threat, and it is coming from the one neighbor they never expected to fight. This is not a drill. This is the exact moment the global crown slipped. And the worst part for America? This is only the opening salvo of a deeper, more calculated economic betrayal. Now, what I am about to show you changes the whole picture. The mainstream media wants you to believe this is just another empty government press release. They want you to think it is just regular politicians smiling for the cameras. That is a complete lie, a total fabrication. This is a cold, calculated private corporate takeover. On May 1st, 2026, exactly 13 days before the politicians ever gathered in Vancouver, a high-stakes vote took place behind closed doors. The joint venture participants of Liquefied Natural Gas Canada met in secret. The tension in that room was absolute. Shell holds a massive 40% stake. PetroChina, Diamond Liquefied Natural Gas Canada, Mitsubishi Corporation, and Korea Gas Corporation control the remaining 60%. These are not minor players. This is a global energy cartel with more financial power than most sovereign nations. During that May 1st vote, they did not just talk. They did not debate. They acted. They voted to approve hundreds of millions of dollars in incremental funding, real capital, hard cash, unstoppable momentum, committed immediately to pre-final investment decision, engineering, and infrastructure work. Let me translate that corporate jargon into plain English for you because nobody else will. When a multi-billion-dollar alliance drops hundreds of millions of dollars before a final decision is officially declared, it means the decision has already been made in secret. No corporate board throws away that kind of massive cash on a gamble. They are locking in the game. They are ensuring there is no turning back, no retreat, no surrender, no escape. I lost sleep analyzing the sheer speed of these private financial filings. While the public was looking elsewhere, these corporations were moving with lethal military precision. The funds are already being deployed into advanced engineering. They are placing orders for highly specialized, long lead equipment that takes years to build. Corporate lawyers are furiously signing binding agreements with First Nations leaders to secure the land. Commercial items across the entire pipeline and supply chain are being finalized right now. At this very second, heavy construction machinery is actively moving raw dirt at the marine offloading terminal. Look at the brutal contrast here. This is not a government announcement of intent. This is a private cartel committing hundreds of millions of dollars to active, physical work on the ground. The corporate boardrooms are not waiting for permission from Washington or Ottawa. They are completely forcing the timeline on their own terms. The mainstream media is completely missing the point. They think the United States still has time to apply political pressure, time to lobby, or time to counter this threat. But you cannot lobby against capital that is already buried in the dirt. The infrastructure is being locked down before the final investment decision is even taken at the end of the year. This eliminates the multi-party negotiations and removes the ultimate commercial risk from the equation. Shell and its partners have created a commercial straitjacket. They are executing the pre-decision work with capital already committed, partnerships already formalized, and supply chains already under strict contract. The trap is officially set, and the United States energy sector is walking directly into a massive ambush. This is financial dominance collapsing in real time. Here is what nobody is talking about. The mainstream media is looking at this entire situation as a simple corporate expansion. They are completely missing the terrifying subtext. This is not just about Canada expanding its market share. This is a targeted, surgical strike against the global economic hegemony of the United States. Shell and its international partners have discovered a double-barreled weapon that will render billions of dollars of American energy infrastructure completely obsolete. It is a quiet execution, no warnings, just results. Let us look at the first weapon, the geographic knife. Consider how the United States currently ships its liquefied natural gas to the ultra-lucrative Asian markets. Look closely at the global map. American tankers must depart from the Gulf of Mexico. They must navigate through the highly congested, drought-plagued, and geopolitically vulnerable Panama Canal. If the canal is blocked, they must sail thousands of extra miles around the southern tip of Africa. It is slow, it is expensive, it is dangerous. Now look at Canada. Look at Kitimat, British Columbia. Tankers launching from this specific deep-water port sail directly across the North Pacific Ocean. No canals, no choke points, no geopolitical extortion. It is the absolute shortest oceanic route between North America and the powerhouse economies of Northeast Asia. We are talking about Japan, South Korea, China, and Southeast Asia. Canada can deliver cargo to these nations in nearly half the time it takes an American vessel from Texas. Less time on the water means lower shipping costs, lower fuel consumption, and vastly higher corporate profits. This is a massive structural advantage that the United States cannot replicate. It is geographically impossible. But the geographic knife is only half of the story. The second weapon is far more lethal. It is the green weapon, the weaponization of environmental and governance metrics. Right now, the United States energy machine is powered by its own product. American liquefaction facilities on the Gulf Coast burn massive amounts of natural gas just to freeze the gas into a liquid state. This process releases a massive cloud of carbon emissions into the atmosphere. For years, global buyers did not care. They just wanted the fuel. But the world changed in 2026. The European Union is actively implementing its carbon border adjustment mechanism. Asian nations are rapidly launching aggressive domestic carbon pricing frameworks. Suddenly, the carbon footprint of your energy carries a massive financial penalty. If your gas is dirty, it becomes incredibly expensive to import. And this is where Canada delivers the fatal blow. The environmental performance projection attached to Phase 2 is specific, documented, and absolutely terrifying for American competitors. Emissions for Phase 2 are projected to be 35% lower than those for the absolute best-performing liquefied natural gas facilities on Earth. Read that number again, 35% lower than the absolute best, and a staggering 60% lower than the global average. How is this possible? It is because Canada is not burning natural gas to power the liquefaction process. They are plugging directly into British Columbia's massive, state-owned hydroelectric grid. Clean, pure, limitless water power is freezing the gas. For European and Asian buyers operating under strict regulations, this emissions profile is not just a public relations victory, it is a critical commercial differentiator. It is an absolute shield against carbon taxes. This means Canadian energy will be cheaper to import by default, completely sidelining American products. To make matters worse, Canada is not selling this gas using American pricing indexes like Henry Hub. This gas is going across the Pacific on long-term contracts denominated in the Brent-linked prices those specific markets prefer to pay. Canada is completely bypassing the American financial system, bypassing the American transportation system, and bypassing the American supply chain. This is a total decoupling, a complete encirclement. Washington believed its energy dominance was absolute, but Canada just rewrote the rules. The United States is left holding the bag with dirtier gas, longer transit routes, and dying contracts. Let us zoom in from these massive geopolitical chessboards straight to your personal bank account. This is where the butterfly effect turns into a direct, brutal financial hit. This is not just a story about giant corporations playing games in distant oceans. This is about your money, your investments, your retirement portfolio, and the hidden inflation that is quietly draining your household wealth. To understand the terrifying speed of this economic collapse, you must look at what happened on April 27, 2026. On that exact day, Shell executed a devastating corporate ambush. They completely acquired ARC Resources in a massive $16,400,000,000 United States dollar transaction. Think about that staggering number, $16,400,000,000. With that single transaction, Shell seized absolute control over approximately 2 billion barrels of proved and probable oil equivalent reserves. They instantly locked down 370,000 barrels per day of raw production, overwhelmingly from the ultra-lucrative Montney natural gas formation in northeastern British Columbia. Why does this corporate raid matter to you? Because it represents a deadly structural integration that the global market has never seen at this scale. Before this acquisition, building a liquefied natural gas empire required years of agonizing multi-party negotiations. You had to align the upstream gas drillers with the pipeline operators, and then negotiate separate terms with the downstream liquefaction plants. One single disagreement could destroy a $50 billion project. Shell just completely eliminated that entire risk. By buying ARC Resources, a single corporate entity now completely owns the gas in the ground, owns the pipelines feeding the coast, and owns the massive liquefaction units at the Kitimat terminal. This integration removes every single layer of contractual friction. It makes the final investment decision before the end of 2026 completely straightforward rather than contractually complex. They have created an absolute closed-loop energy printing press. Now, let us experience the real-world impact on your wallet. When a global superpower like Shell diverts $16,400,000,000 into Canada, that massive capital is being permanently sucked out of the United States financial ecosystem. Capital is cowardly. Capital goes where the profit is highest and the risk is lowest. Right now, billions of dollars of private investment are quietly fleeing the American Gulf Coast. Think about the massive liquefied natural gas terminals currently operating or under construction in Texas and Louisiana. Those projects were funded under the absolute assumption that America would maintain a permanent global monopoly. Investors expected decades of uninterrupted, high-margin returns. But today, those multi-billion-dollar American facilities are facing the terrifying reality of becoming stranded assets. They are left with dirtier gas, longer transit routes, and collapsing profit margins. When major energy infrastructure fails or loses its competitive edge, the financial shockwaves hit ordinary citizens first. The pension funds, the index funds, and the major banks that heavily backed American energy dominance are already seeing their risk profiles skyrocket. To cover these hidden losses, financial institutions will tighten credit, restrict lending, and shift burdens onto everyday consumers. Furthermore, the loss of market dominance creates massive domestic price volatility. As Canada locks up long-term, high-priced contracts with Asian giants, American producers will be forced to compete in a hyper-aggressive, low-margin environment. To survive, domestic utility companies will adjust their corporate strategies, causing sudden, unpredictable spikes in your local heating bills, electricity costs, and general energy inflation. Every single time you power your home or pay your monthly utility bill, you are paying the invisible tax of this Canadian energy victory. Your retirement accounts, your stock portfolios, and your daily purchasing power are all directly tied to this global balance. The wealth is shifting north, the American monopoly is crumbling, and the ordinary consumer is left to absorb the devastating financial blow. Let us look directly at the dark future that awaits us. We are entering completely uncharted economic territory. The United States will not sit idle. Washington will strike back. The global energy map will be torn apart. Three distinct, highly volatile pathways now stand before the global economy. The first scenario is direct economic retaliation. Do not expect Washington to watch its hard-won energy crown slip away without a brutal, dirty fight. The United States federal government could easily weaponize domestic regulatory bureaucracy, utilizing subtle environmental pretexts or legal infrastructure blockades to actively sabotage the expansion capacity of the Coastal GasLink pipeline. This calculated interference would trigger an unprecedented, vicious trade war within the North American continent itself, pitting the closest of allies against one another in a desperate zero-sum bid for global resource survival. The second scenario is the total, permanent isolation of the United States from the fastest-growing consumer markets on the entire planet. If Shell and its aggressive multinational partners successfully lock up all remaining long-term contracts across the Pacific Ocean, Asia will permanently fall under the exclusive energetic influence of this newly formed Canadian alliance. The United States will find itself completely cut off from the economic engine of the 21st century, forced to dump its excess natural gas into a heavily saturated European market for pennies on the dollar. The third scenario is a catastrophic global price war that breaks the system entirely. As Canadian hydroelectric-powered facilities flood the marketplace with incredibly cheap, ultra-low-carbon fuel, desperate American producers might engage in a frantic race to the bottom, slashing their own prices to completely unviable levels just to maintain operations. This chaos could trigger a systemic collapse of massive energy corporations, wiping out billions of dollars in public pension funds overnight. The countdown has officially begun. The cooperation agreement is signed. The private funding is actively deployed. The upstream supply is completely locked down under contract. Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson confirmed that Liquefied Natural Gas Canada will make its absolute final investment decision before December 31st, 2026. The clock is ticking loudly in the dark. Every single minute brings us closer to a permanent, irreversible structural shift. Will the United States find a hidden lever to flip the script at the final second? Or has the global energy throne officially changed masters forever? The answer will redefine the modern world. I want to know exactly what you think about this brutal geopolitical ambush. Will Canada successfully crush American dominance, or is Washington preparing a devastating counterstrike? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below right now. I am entering the comment section immediately to debate this critical issue with you directly.